writing equations of lines. So first form we're going to deal with is slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. You may see it written f of x equals mx plus b. Y and f of x are exactly the same thing, okay? It just means this is a y for a particular x value is what that's saying. This is just generally y, okay? Y equals mx plus b. The m is the slope. Same slope we dealt with last week, okay? So we're going to have a slope and the y-intercept. Okay. If you're a y-intercept, where are you on the graph? What is that? Vertical axis, which is called the y-axis. Okay. A y-intercept is on the y-axis. Okay. So slope, y-intercept. Got to have those two things to get it in slope-intercept form. Okay. A slope and a y-intercept. Got to have those two things. Okay. So I'm going to start out with problems where you're given those two things. Okay. So write the equation in slope-intercept form. Okay, so example A, going to tell us that the slope is equal to negative 2/3 and the y-intercept is 6. Given the slope and the y-intercept. If you're given the slope, that's M. If you're given the y-intercept, that's B. Okay? Slope, M, y-intercept, B. So when you go to a slope-intercept form, you're just replacing that with the number that they told you. Instead of M, I'm going to write negative 2/3 x plus the y-intercept is 6. Write the number 6 right there. And I'm done. That's easy, but they're not going to stay that way, okay? You know that's not going to happen, but that's what you've got to be looking for, okay? Slope, 5, y-intercept. Maybe they write their y-intercept like this. Slope's 5, the y-intercept is at 0, -7. Which part of that is B? The 0 or the -7? The -7. What's the 5? M. It's the slope. Slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Replace the stuff they gave you. They gave me the slope was 5. Put it in there. They gave me the y-intercept. They said it was at 0, -7. So that means b is -7. So plus -7. Or you could write it 5x minus 7. That way, if you're doing it on Khan Academy, you don't want to write plus minus. You want to change it to, if it's plus a negative, change it to a minus sign, okay? So when you're doing Khan Academy, they want you to simplify that. Adding a negative is the same as subtracting, okay? Adding a negative is the same as subtracting. So make sure you're doing that. Say we got a slope. Let's do one that's a little funky. 11/6. And then 0, -5/6. Well, What's m? 11 over 6. X. What's b? Now, negative 5 over 6. I'm going to write that minus 5 over 6. It's okay that they're fractions. It's not a problem. It's still, they give you the slope, they give you the y-intercept. Find it. Easy stuff right there. Might get a little more difficult if you had two ordered pairs, maybe. One of the ordered pairs is 0, 8, and then this one is 6, 12. Do they give us any of the stuff that we need to write a slope-intercept form equation? No? What do they give me? They gave me the y-intercept. 0, 8 is the y-intercept, right? 8's the b, right? So we know that's b. But that really doesn't do us much good if we don't have what? The m, the slope. But they gave us two ordered pairs. Can we find the slope between those two ordered pairs? Yeah. Using that slope formula. So we got to know how to do that. We did that all week last week, or toward the end of the week last week, for 3 days. So y2 minus y1, so I'm going to take 12 minus 8 over 6 minus 0. 12 minus 8 is 4. 6 minus 0 is 6. Is that my slope? Simplify. Good. What goes into both of them? 2. So it ends up being 2/3. So there's my slope. That's m right there. I've got m. I've got b. That's the things I need. 2/3 x plus 8. It's plus 8 because that's positive 8. If it were a negative 8, you'd have a minus 8. On these other ones, I gave you the slope, I gave you the y-intercept. You didn't have to find the slope.
Okay, so
you weren't doing what we were doing on the screen?
But all these were coming from this side.
Doesn't matter what side they're coming from. You got to recognize what they are. This is a y-intercept. Finding the slope, we had to do that work somewhere. And it wasn't given to you. You had to find it. Say we had this order pair, -3, +9, and 0, -6. So again, we're writing the equation of the line in slope-intercept form first. Have we got either of those things? Yes. To write in slope-intercept form, we got to have two things. Got to have a slope and a y-intercept. I definitely don't have the slope because it would have said m equals or slope is this. So I definitely don't have slope. Are either of those ordered pairs the y-intercept? -3, 9. That's definitely not the y-intercept because that's up in quadrant 2, right? 0, -6. Now, 0, that's right there in the middle. -6 goes down to, that's right there on the y-axis. So -6 is my y-intercept. That's b. But they didn't give me a slope. So what do I have to do? Find it. So doesn't matter what order I start with the y's. I'm going to start with 9. 9 minus -6 over -3 minus 0. That'd be 15 over -3. Which would be -5. because this 3 is still negative, so it'll be a negative 5. So my slope is negative 5. So I have slope, and if this helps, negative 5, y-intercept, 0, negative 6. Maybe you just rewrite it that way. That way you know it's there. We know our slope is this, our y-intercept is that. So our equation is y equals negative 5x minus 6. Okay. Nine, negative 10, and 0, negative 10. Do we have anything? Is one of those the y-intercept? 0, negative 10 is the y-intercept. So that's B right there. We got to find the slope. Negative 10 minus negative 10 over 9 minus 0. What's negative 10 minus negative 10? Be 0. 9 minus 0. 9. What's 0 divided by anything? 0. So the slope of this one is 0. Okay, if the slope is 0, and we plug that in for x, or right there by the x, and then it's negative 10 for the y-intercept, so that's minus 10. What's 0 times x? 0. It doesn't matter what x is, right? Because if I'm multiplying it by 0, it's going to go away. So the equation would simplify to just y equals negative 10 because the slope is 0. That's the only time that's going to happen, is if the slope is 0, the x is going to go away. That's the only time that happens. All right. So far, we've been given a slope and given the y-intercept. So they gave us everything we need for slope-intercept form. And then the next thing we did was they gave us a y-intercept and another point. We were able to take that y-intercept and then find the slope and get there. What if they don't give us either of those things? If they don't give us either of those things, that's where this other form that we're going to talk about today comes in. That form is called point-slope form. You don't have as much experience with point-slope form as you do slope-intercept form. Y'all done slope-intercept form for a couple of years. Point-slope form, you've seen, but you don't have as much experience with it because we don't do as much with it in the younger grades. So point-slope form is really handy when you don't have the y-intercept. If you've got the y-intercept, then putting it in slope-intercept form is really easy. But if you don't have those, point-slope form is the way to use, or the thing to go for. And point-slope form looks like this. M is still the slope. That has not changed and will forever be the slope. Anytime you see that in a linear equation, it's the slope. This x1 and y1 that's there, that's an ordered pair, okay? That ordered pair doesn't matter what the numbers are in there. It doesn't have to be a y-intercept. When we were doing slope-intercept form, that ordered pair we were using had to be a y-intercept. Point-slope form, it doesn't have to be. Okay, so this is why we need this. Is what if it's not a y-intercept? Can I still get an equation out of that? So here's what we're going to try to do. What letter are we on here? G. I'm going to give you the slope. And this line goes through the point 4, 5. Okay? So in this case, we've got the slope, but we don't have the y-intercept. Okay? If we've got the slope and we don't have the y-intercept, we want to start with point slope form. Okay? So we've got m, and we've got x1 and y1. That's what you need to know about that ordered pair. That this is m, but this is x1, and that 5 is y1. So you need to memorize point slope form, that generic formula there. And we're plugging in the stuff that goes for each thing. Okay, so where the m is, I'm going to put a 3. Where the x1 is, I'm going to put a 4. Where the y1 is, I'm going to put a 5. That is point slope form. It's just as easy as the give me parts of slope-intercept form. It's just a little bit longer, okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take that from point slope form. So you've got an assignment down Khan Academy that says write it in point slope form. Those answers are going to look like this. But we also got an assignment that says write them in slope-intercept form. Well, they gave us the slope, but they didn't give me the y-intercept. So what I want to do is take this point slope form that I've already found and put it in slope-intercept form. To be in slope-intercept form, what has to be by itself? Y. Hadn't we done that before? We did that back in the first 9 weeks. We solved equations for y. So what we want to do is take this red equation here and get y by itself. That's our job. To get it into slope-intercept form, we got to get y by itself. So to do that, we're taking y minus 5 equals 3, parentheses, x minus 4. What would be the first step in getting y by itself when you see this problem? But yeah, you got to go to those parentheses first because order of operations says that happens first, right? And what happens at these parentheses? Times everything by what? 3. We're distributing the 3 to both of those terms. So 3 times x and 3 times 4. So that'd be 3x minus 12. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. On the other side, it's still y minus 5. I haven't done anything to that yet. Nothing's changed there. One more step gets y by itself. Add 5. What do I add 5 to? Negative 12 over there. So that's y, 3x minus 7, right? Negative 12 plus 5, negative 7. Y equals mx plus b. That's slope-intercept form. So we wrote this problem in point slope form, and then we used the point slope form to get into slope-intercept form. Okay, this is the slope-intercept form. And I'll abbreviate that. Okay. Let's do another one. Let's say they give us a slope of 1/2. It goes through negative 6, 10. They give us a slope. We know negative 6, 10 is definitely not the y-intercept. Okay? That's how we know that point slope is the way to start. They give you a slope and some point that's not the y-intercept. Okay? So slope's 1/2. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. So I'm just rewriting that slope, that point slope form, so that I've got it memorized by the end of the lesson today. Okay. M 1/2. X minus negative 6. Y minus 10. Can I simplify that a little bit? Look right here. I got a double negative. What's a double negative turn into? Positive. So on Khan Academy, if you're having to write the answer in point slope form, which some of them you will, you need to simplify that into being x plus 6. Okay. I call that cleaning it up. Because double negative always is going to turn into a plus there. Okay. So this is point slope form. Okay. There's point slope. Okay. What do I need to do in order to get this into slope-intercept form? What am I trying to get by itself in slope-intercept form? Y. So what's my first move? Multiply 1/2 to everything on that side. So that's y minus 10 equals 1/2 x. What's 1/2 times 6? Half 6. Half 6 is 3. So I've just distributed 1/2 to both of those pieces. One more move gets y by itself. Add 10. So that'd be 13. 1/2 x plus 13. That's my slope-intercept. What's the y-intercept of this problem? What's the ordered pair for it? 13 is the right number. What's the ordered pair for the y-intercept of 13? What's the x value? 0, 13. Okay. So the ordered pair is 0, 13 for that. Step it up just another notch. What do we have on this one? What did they give us? 2 ordered pairs. They didn't give us a slope. They didn't give us a y-intercept. They didn't give us anything. But they gave us 2 ordered pairs. Okay? So, in order to write this equation in any form, I need what first?
Mr. Hazel?
Yes, ma'am.
Was Gary cooking first block?
No.
Okay.
So, got to find the slope of that line. So, the slope, y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. We're applying what we did last week to this. I'm going to take negative 10 minus 8 over 4 minus 6. Negative 18 over negative 2, which is how much? Positive or negative? Positive, because they're both negative. So it'd be positive 9 over 1 or just positive 9. I would just leave it just plain old 9. 9 over 1 is the same thing. Okay, so there's our slope. Now here's the thing with point slope form. How many ordered pairs do I have up here? 2. So that means I could have 2 different equations for point slope form. Both of them would be correct as long as you put stuff in the right place. If I use the 0.68, y minus y1 was m x minus x1. Okay. Y minus 8 equals 9 parentheses x minus 6. That's point slope form using that ordered pair. That's correct. But you got a different ordered pair up there that you could also use. If you use the 4, negative 10, y minus negative 10 equals 9 parentheses x minus 4. I can clean that up a little bit where? What would simplify a little bit? No. Trying to write it in point slope form, so I'm not trying to get x or y by itself. I'm trying to, that'd be a plus 10. Yeah, I got a double negative on the 10, so I can clean that up a little bit. Don't like it? I'm gonna catch you one of these times. We're gonna deal with it. And whoever's working with him in the back here, stop. Last time I checked, but ain't one person that's made 100 on everything in here. It ain't none of you guys. There's point slope form. Both of those are exactly the same. They make the same line. They're different ordered pairs. Slopes are the same, but they make the same line. Okay? What I want you to see here is it doesn't matter which one of these you start with, your slope-intercept form will be the same. Okay? So if I work this one out to get it into slope-intercept form, I would have y minus 8 equals 9x minus 54. And then I would add 8. It'd be 9x minus 46. That's the slope-intercept form. Over on the other side, that'd be y plus 10 equals 9x minus 36. I would subtract 10. Negative 36 minus 10. Guess what? Negative 46. Point slope forms look different. Slope-intercepts should be exactly the same. Okay, so no matter which ordered pair you picked, your neighbor can pick the other one, and you both should have the same slope-intercept form. Yeah. So no matter ordered pairs on point slope form, pick one and work it. I'm not saying you got to do both of these. You should only do one of them. What I'm saying is what you pick works. What your neighbor, if they pick the other ordered pair, it works too. Okay? But you both should end up with the same slope-intercept form if you did things correctly. If you end up with different slope-intercept forms, you didn't do things right. Something either you misadded or you mismultiplied or you got the x and the y in the wrong spots. Those are the things that could happen here. Okay? So when you're checking these, if you're pretty sure you did everything right here, we'll try it with the other ordered pair. See if you get the same slope-intercept form. Okay? Some of your assignment is going to ask for point slope form. Some of it's going to ask for slope-intercept form. Pay attention to which one it's asking for. Because if it asks for point slope form, you stop here. If it asks for slope-intercept form, you got to go on down to get the slope get y by itself. Okay? Let's do I don't know what letter we're on. Let's say we're going through -7, +2, and -8, +3. There's our two ordered pairs. we want to write the equation in point slope form and slope intercept form. So we're just working both of those forms today. Wednesday we'll add the last form. So to do either of those forms, what's the first thing I got to find? Slope. 3 minus 2, negative 8 minus negative 7. 1 over negative 1. Slope's negative 1. Okay. Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. Remember, your ordered pairs better line up vertically when you're doing your slope intercept or your slope formula so that you can get there. Okay. So there's my slope. That's M. Then I need to pick an ordered pair to use. It does not matter which one. Neither of these have a fraction in it. If one of them had a fraction in it and the other one didn't, I wouldn't pick the fraction one, right? I won't pick the one that's easiest for you. I'm just going to pick the first one because it's got smaller numbers in it. Doesn't necessarily, make it any easier, but it's just the first one. So that's the one we're going to use for our point slope form. So what's our point slope form? How's it start out? Okay, so what's the y value for that first ordered pair? The y value for that first ordered pair that I just circled. Oh my gosh. Y values, ordered pairs, x comma y. It's 2. Slope, negative 1. What goes in the parentheses? X minus the x value, which is negative 7. Can that be cleaned up? Where? That double negative on the 7 right there, right? So always want to clean it up before you move on, okay? So we got y minus 2 equals negative 1. Y minus 2 equals negative 1, parentheses, x plus 7. Point slope form. So you know that that's point slope right there. That's point slope form. Let's get that in slope intercept form. Shouldn't be too hard here. We've got a negative 1 that we're multiplying out. That's going to be y minus 2 equals negative 1x minus 7. Now what? Add 2. The like terms, negative 1x minus 5. Understand that this is the same thing. If I don't write the 1, understand that minus x is the same thing as negative 1x. Okay? I don't think Khan Academy will count you wrong if you put negative 1 there in front of it, but that's the same thing. I know it won't count you wrong for that.
Is Tyler Thompson in there?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you step up here, please?
Yeah.